So Microsoft have announced Xcloud gaming support. Microsoft, what is he doing, baby? Anyway, so back to the point. Microsoft has actually announced today their new cloud game streaming service. We've all heard of these things before. We've all heard of OnLive, we know how that went. We've all heard of those select games that run in Japan only on Nintendo Switch because, well, their infrastructure is good, because the Switch isn't powerful enough to run the games. And we've actually heard of PlayStation Now, service we'll talk about a little bit further on in this video. But anyway, what is this whole Microsoft Xcloud thing? Well, it runs similar to all the services, or at least somewhat similar to the services we just mentioned. Essentially, what it's going to do is allow you to play your games, to play your Xbox games wherever, whatever, on a server somewhere. So that will be streamed to your location, to your device, and currently it's touted to be kind of working just towards phones and tablets. Now, of course, I know straight away that's alarm bells. Well, realistically, it was alarm bells as soon as they brought in the game streaming service from the cloud. But anyway, we'll finish off the announcement real quick and then we'll get into talking about it. So Microsoft are going to be running with this service. It's currently in closed internal tests. What they're going to also do is they're going to have public beta tests at some point in 2019. Now, chances are the service might go fully live in 2019. They might have to do multiple different tests and it might actually come out in, like, I don't know, 2020 or whatever, which could also potentially tie into something I've talked about before: the rumors of the new Xbox console. The rumors out there are currently that there's going to be a traditional console style bundle or version with actual proper console hardware inside it, where you can render the games locally in the actual console. And there's also rumors of another model which would have very limited hardware inside it, just to handle stuff like streaming and whatnot. The games would not be rendered internally in that console, but it would allow access to this service. Again, we'll get into all those details now in a minute. Microsoft, obviously, as I've said already with the beta tests and all that, Microsoft have gone on and announced that it's going to be set up in 54 Azure regions. If you're not sure what Azure is, it's basically Microsoft's cloud-based computing service. It's set up all around the world and they have multiple different locations of it, one of which is actually covering Ireland, believe it or not. No, I won't be giving it a try, don't bother asking, because cloud gaming and stream gaming can fuck itself and die, regardless of what platform it's on, even PC. And the service is going to be looking at about 140 countries worldwide. Now, let's break this down into multiple different parts and different reasons, if you will. So first off, we've already looked at the potentially part of the next console, the whole Project Scarlet thing. This could go hand in hand. By the time this is up and running properly and ready to go and whatnot, this could tie in with the rumored console that we mentioned, the one that would only have the streaming stuff in it. So it would essentially give you access to this, and this would be your subscription to this. The X Games service, or Xcloud, would be your Game Pass, if you will. You wouldn't need Game Pass because everything would be completely streamed, because you wouldn't have the hardware to install it from, say, something like Game Pass. Now, here's where that also gets interesting. This would be kind of a slightly burned out move, simply because Sony, just the other day, about a week or two ago, actually did something to improve their PlayStation Now service. PlayStation Now, of course, being the game streaming service from Sony, which was available on stuff like PS3, I believe, PS4, and even PC. But anyway, that's beside the point. What they've actually allowed you to do recently is, if you have a PlayStation Now subscription, you could download the games onto, say, your PS3 or your PS4 or whatever, and install and play them from there. I'd have to double check the PS4 version, but I'm pretty sure it worked with the PS3 version. You could download and install the games, because that way you're actually properly playing the games, you're properly rendering them locally, and you're not using shitty cloud-based, delay-based, millisecond latency, blah 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 buzzword delayed shitty services. I don't care what anyone says, even the reports out of Japan, where they have considerably better infrastructure, say that these streaming services are no good. You look at something like Resident Evil 7 on the Switch, which is only available on the cloud-based system style, because we all know that the Nintendo Switch is nowhere near powerful enough to actually run the game at any competent level. And there are many complaints about that version, despite their infrastructure. Of course, everyone all over the world has experience with stuff like PlayStation Now or the old OnLive service. Certain people will kiss its ass, but it's widely known that it's not good enough. And with Microsoft now allowing you to stream all their games and stream them versus Sony's one, which actually now, as of about a week or two ago, lets you install them, that's a pretty big deal. I realize Xbox has Game Pass in that regard, but that's another separate subscription. And not to mention, if this rumored streaming console comes out, it's probably not going to have a hard drive big enough to install even a single game. Now, on the positive side of it, on the objective positive side, the one that doesn't apply to me, it doesn't apply to whoever, and it's not my opinion on it, this is potentially a good thing, simply for probably two reasons. One is options. It's always good to give consumers more options. There of course are downsides to it, in my opinion, and my not just my subjective opinion, but there's also objective downfalls of it too, which we'll talk about in a second. But the big thing with this is it's more options for people. That's always a good thing, objectively. And the second objective point is this is coming from a company, Microsoft of course, who has a significant amount of time, money, and technology invested in cloud-based services, and not just subscription-based services, or at least cloud subscription services, but the actual technology and the hardware involved in it. If any company out there can get cloud gaming right, or at least as close as possible to right as you can actually get, because it will never be perfect, at least not compared to locally rendered games, Microsoft is probably the number one company that could do this, followed closely by Google, and then I don't think anyone else has a legitimate shot. And we all know Google is actually rolling out a cloud-based version like this as well, so who knows how that's going to go. Of course, some objective, not subjective, but objective cons when it comes to this is not only is it another subscription, you're also forfeiting your essential right to ownership. Once this is gone and you're no longer subscribed or anything, you have zilch, zero, diddly squat, which may be okay for some people, but it is still an objective negative. Two, because it's a streaming cloud-based service, if your internet is not good enough or patchy or maybe it dies or something, you're shit out of luck. You can't do anything for a service you're paying for. So yeah, not the most fun thing in the world when your money is essentially being wasted. And of course, that can be said for many other subscription services, so I'm not really going to 100% just shit on this service like it's a negative for just Xcloud. That applies to anything: Netflix, Amazon Video, any of those streaming services, music, video, games, or otherwise. I mean, how are you going to watch your Pornhub Premium if you've no internet? Anywhere, on your phone, at home, whatever. You're pretty much fucked, and not in the way you want to be. Now, back to my opinion on this. So, we've already covered the objective side of it. We've already covered that more options is always a good thing for consumers. And that from a technology and investment side of it, both monetary and otherwise, Microsoft probably has a good shot at actually doing this and pulling it off correctly. But, when it comes to what I think about this, I think this is pure bullshit. Microsoft, this is the wrong focus. Okay, it's okay that you're focusing on it, and it's admirable that you're pushing in certain other directions, and you're probably going at least, maybe not whole hog, but you're going majority hog into it. But this doesn't fix your biggest issue. You clearly think that this is going to open up your service and your install base, if you will, to tens of millions more people than you already have. Now granted, you only have about maybe 35 million, less than half of the number one competitor, and are about to be outdone by your other competitor in a fraction of the time. None of this helps curb the original issue and the core problem. You need to put money, time, development, and proper management, being the key thing, into developing your fucking games. We don't want Sea of Thieves-esque shit. You can tell by the player numbers, you can tell by the people who don't give a shit about it, you can tell by all the reviews. No one wants this. State of Decay 2. Who has heard of that game since it launched? I could probably go on to YouTube, Twitch, or Mixer right now and find probably literally dozens of people watching the game. Remember, literally dozens, not hundreds, not thousands, not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands or millions, but probably literally dozens playing both of those games, not just State of Decay 2. Crackdown 3 is a fucking mess. The game might as well be vaporware at this point. Do I believe it will actually come out? Yes, probably. But we're a long time away from some proper games. Assuming Crackdown 3 doesn't get another whole 5 million delays, it's due out at some point next year. And yes, they've got Gears of War 5 hopefully at the end of next year. But that's been a pretty barren time when it comes to Xbox for, well, about 3 or so, 4 years now. Depending on where you're counting to. If it's now or when this stuff actually starts coming out. But Microsoft needs to get rid of the core problem with their system. Or with their platforms. Because obviously we have PC as an Xbox platform as well now. You can have all the Game Passes, you can have all the Xcloud streaming services, you can have whatever the fuck you want. But if you don't have the games to play and put on these systems that you can't get elsewhere, no one is going to use them. There's a reason why you're being destroyed by Sony. They have all the third-party support just like you do. In fact, they even have a little bit more because all the niche games actually come out on there too. It's mostly all the weeb stuff, but it's still stuff. I mean, hell, look at Persona 5. One of the best games I've ever played. And that's only on the PS3 and PS4 for now. Sega and Atlus have said it might come to PC at some point, but hell, that's why I have all the platform. But you know what it's not available on? One of the highest rated JRPGs of all time? It's not on the Xbox One. And then you've got other games like God of War, Spider-Man, Detroit Become Human, of course yes I'm just pulling from 2018, and these are massive multi-million selling games. Either first party, quality games, or exclusives from another company. This is Microsoft's biggest problem, and it's something they are still, at this point, failing to address. You could give me a streaming subscription service with 500, maybe even 1,000 games. But if I can play every single one of those games elsewhere, and better because they'll be rendered locally, and I'm not just using this as my beast PC an example, I'm using say even the PS4 or the PS4 Pro, the only place they'll never play better is the Switch. There's still no incentive to get this. You might have a handful of people that say, oh, I don't have a console or whatever, so I'll just stream all this stuff to my phone. Of course, there will be a few dozen or 100 people that will do that kind of thing. But your market is extremely small. And if you don't fix your game problem, Microsoft, it doesn't fucking matter. So I think it's a waste simply because they're not focusing on fixing the core problems. No one is going to use this service. I've already said it just a second ago, and I'm going to say it again. No one is going to use this because if you don't have the games, the exclusive games that you cannot get anywhere else, then essentially no one is going to buy your hardware. Sony have been killing it with the first party stuff and the exclusive stuff. And look at the Switch. The only reason to own a Switch is because of first party Nintendo title. Everything else on it's trash by comparison. But it's portable. No, fuck off. First party Nintendo platform only. It's the only use that piece of shit has. So anyway, let me know in the comments section below what you think about Microsoft's foray into the cloud. Granted, it's not really their first proper one. They teased it with Crackdown years ago. In fact, I think it was at the launch of the Xbox One, or even before the launch of the Xbox One, when they showed off Crackdown before it was Crackdown, if you will. But let me know what you think about their whole streaming side of it, the whole game streaming side of it, not the physics stuff, because, well, the Xbox One was a piece of shit and unable to do those calculations itself. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on the Xcloud by itself as a comparison to, say, PlayStation Now, especially with its new ability to download the games and play them locally, or the effect it will and won't have, simply because if it has or doesn't have the games, if it offers an attractive package or not. Let me know all that in the comments section below. Hit the appropriate button to let me know I did on the video. While you're at it, head on over, hit that subscribe button, even ring that little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a live stream or a new video upload is a whole other story, but hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.